Again, good evening, and thank you everyone coming and making the time. So again, we will start with a short motivations. Before that, watching our breath to quiet our mind for a few moments. Then we can try to reflect, contemplate, Even we try to work with our mind and practice the Dharma. And even through the practice, even though we can be more peaceful, happy, still, unless we overcome the delusion, the afflictive emotions from the very root of it, we will continue to circle in the samsara again and again. And while in samsara, we will continue to experience a lot of problem, pain and suffering. So therefore, if we want to free ourselves permanently from all the suffering, we need to eliminate all the afflictive emotions or the delusions from the very root of it. And to do that, we need to cultivate a penetrating wisdom of special insight. That can act as antidote towards all the delusions. In order to cultivate that penetrating wisdom of special insight, one needs to develop strong, immovable mind of karma abiding, or shamatha. And in order to develop shamatha and karma abiding, like all other realization, is not enough just by wishing and making the prayer. We need to engage in the practice to do reflection, contemplation, meditations. Correctly and continuously. And for that, we need to be reminded of those practices as well as continue to study and learn. That is why we have come here together. And may our act of coming together, listening to the teachings, reflecting, contemplating on them, become cause and conditions, not only to free ourselves from the samsara and the suffering of samsara, but in order to all sentient beings to be free from suffering and cause of suffering, and to achieve a fully awakened or fully enlightened state as soon as possible. Okay, so then we can do the prayer. So yeah, we can do the Heart Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya people gem. Thus did I hear one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on the mass of altered mountain in the Rasgaya, together with a great community of monks and great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was observed in concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasatva Arya Avalokita Shora looked upon the very practice of profound perfection or wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasatva Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wish to practice the activities of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasatva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection and wisdom should look upon like this correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregate assets also as an empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness form, emptiness not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not division, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factor, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and the path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, the Bodhisattva rely on growth in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurprised, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurprised mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that totally passes away all suffering, should be known as truth since it is not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom declared, Tayata Om Kade Kade, Parasam Kade, Bodhi. So, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Master, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. When the Bhagavan arose from the concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Master Arya Avalokeshwara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that one should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharitatita Putra, the Bodhisattva Master Avalokeshwara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of God, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Sa shive ge chon shin me to ta re ra ne se yin de ge ba de sang ge shin to mi de o wa do kun nama da shin che ba sho idam guru rana mandala ga I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Jodan Soge Tonam, Chanju Vado Dane Gapa, Age Josheki Vesonam, Dova Pente Sanke Dova, Sangye Jodan Soge Tonam, Chanju Vado Dane, Age Josheki Vesonam, Dova Pente Sanke Dova. Kanje Doja Nyazone, Tawa Doja Tombe, Convention Intelligence, Bodam de la Chao. So, we are in the we have been going through the middle Lam-Rim, and within that we have finished the small scope practices, middle scope practices, and great scope practice. And within the great scope practices, there's a training in the 6 perfections, and we have kind of finished the 6 perfections. Then Lama Tsongkhapa going more detail on the last 2 perfections, the perfection of meditative concentration and wisdom. And so we are on that. So it's a page number 182, chapter 5, where it is called Shamatha and Special Insight. So again, this last chapter, Lama Tsongkhapa will much more extensive and detailed in how to cultivate the karma abiding of shamatha, as well as special insight, the penetrating wisdom of special insight, and which are part of the last two, sixth perfection, the perfection of material concentration and wisdom. And so that is the transitions, and then the actual explanations. Lama Tsongkhapa explained from the point of view 7 points, 6 points, and yeah, first, like those 7 points, first is reflecting, contemplating on, benefit and advantage of cultivating the shamatha and karma abiding. The more you see the benefit, advantage, the more we will be inspired. The more we will be inspired, the more we will be encouraged to study and practice and cultivate those qualities, and then secondly, showing or demonstrating that all other in these two, it include all different concentration. There are so many different kind of concentration, many hundred thousand concentration. But if we kind of summarize, it can be kind of included within the shamatha and karma abiding. So kind of that, and then and the entity or nature of shamatha, and what is shamatha, what is special insight. So what is the nature, or what is the entity of that, and then why we need to not only cultivate one of them, but why we need to cultivate both of them, why it is so important and necessary to cultivate those both, shamatha and special insight. Wouldn't it be enough to just to cultivate one, so here saying it is not enough just to cultivate one of them. Is absolutely necessary to cultivate both of them, especially in order to achieve, whether it's individual liberations or fully enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Both are both need to be cultivated, and how this order is definite, in terms of the order, there is an order which one need to be cultivated first. First we need to cultivate the shamatha and then karma abiding. So it is not like we can cultivate the karma abiding first and shamatha later, especially for those of us who are trying to cultivate for the very first time. So there is that order, definite of that order. First karma abiding, and then first shamatha and then karma abiding. So I'm explaining more of that, and then it comes to the main one: how to train in each of them. Then how to train in order to cultivate the shamatha and karma abiding, each of them. So I'm going more detail on that. So it cover in that going to explain with those 6 points. So then the first point, the benefit or the advantage of cultivating the shamatha and karma abiding. So in the sutra of unraveling the intent meaning, that is the third turning wheel of the Dharma. The Buddha has turned Dharma. There is first turning wheel of the Dharma, and there is second turning wheel of the Dharma, and there is third turning wheel of the Dharma. And this sutra belongs to the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma. Of course, within that, there are many different sutras, but this is one of the main sutras of that is part of the third turning wheel of the Dharma. And this is also one of the sutra that the Mind-only school kind of take it as a definitive sutras. There are a lot of their concept, their view come through these sutras. In that sutras, it has explained all the worldly and or mundane and super mundane and beyond worldly qualities are result of shamatha and karma abiding. So in that sutra, it has explained all the qualities, ordinary and non-ordinary, or in another word, mundane and super mundane, worldly or beyond worldly, those different qualities, especially realizations. Those different realizations are result of karma abiding and shamatha and karma abiding. So it is. So then when it is explained that way, then there comes some kind of doubt. How come that be? So then next is setting out the doubt about it. So the doubt comes where, a doubt could come where, how can that be? Because when we talk about karma abiding or shamatha and special insight, it is a result of what we call gomchung, and that is a state of mind that arises from certain meditations. And it is it belongs to the higher realms, state of higher realm mind. And so therefore here's how can every become, for example, even without the karma abiding and shamatha, someone can have realizations of renunciations. Someone can have a realizations of bodhicitta. Someone can have a realizations of nature of sufferings. So there could be many realizations which is not result of karma abiding and shamathas. Even without karma abiding shamatha, someone can have such realizations. So how can those be result of shamatha and karma abiding? So that is the kind of the cautions or the kind of doubt that could arise. So how can that meaning on that sutra mean that? And so then the response to it, so Lama Tsongkhapa kind of clarifying how there is no contradictions to those two, So the actual, shamatha and special insight are excellent quality of continuing gain from the meditation, or is a gomchung, is a special gomchung, the mind of gomchung. And so therefore all excellent qualities of Mahayana and Hinayana, as I mentioned, some of the examples that I mentioned, they are not result of shamatha karma abiding, because someone can have those qualities or realization even without shamatha and karma abiding. And so, but even though that, nevertheless, all the realizations or quality that one develop by using certain level of concentration, single-pointed mind, they all belong to class of shamatha, even though they are not actual shamatha, but they belong to the type of class of shamatha, and therefore some of them are result of that, and then some of them are result of virtuous wisdom, which does the through analysis and investigations, that one can have certain realizations. And those realizations, even though they are not actual karma abiding, but they are similar. It is type or class of karma abiding because they have similar way of investigating. Is the wisdom, is analyzing, investigating. And so therefore, all these realizations come through either, some form of single-pointed meditation or some form of analytical meditations, and therefore it is said they are result of shamatha and karma abiding. They are not actual result. Not all of them are actual result of shamatha karma abiding, but they are result of some form of meditative concentration and analysis. And so therefore, and those belong to the same class because they are similar in terms of that too. And so therefore it wouldn't be contradictions, And then there is a quotation from another quotations, from the Sutra on unrevealing intended meanings, and I think it says, once we have practiced and familiarized with shamatha and special insight, then we can achieve or gain complete liberations, and freedom from the boundaries of taking back state and signs. And so there, Lama Tsongkhapa explained what does that mean, taking back state and the sign, and from that sutras and explaining meaning of that. The others is easy to understand. So here, when you say taking back state, is referring to the imprint, So in Tibetan, there are three words, Pakcha, Sapin, Nuba, I think it might have been translated as sometime Pakcha is like imprint, Sapin is like seed, Nuba as potential. They are kind of same, synonymous in generally. What it means is like, for example, the delusions, when you were afflicted with emotion delusions, then that leaves certain imprint or potential within our mind stream. And when it meets the conducive conditions, then that's potential or that imprint or seed will give rise to that kind of delusions, similar delusions, So that is what the imprint or the seed of potential does, And so that when the cause and condition come together and meet with that imprint, then that give rise to whatever delusions, afflictive emotions, that. That generally, but sometimes the imprint can refer to also not necessarily giving rise to the delusions, but giving the appearance of, for even those arhat who have completely eliminated the delusions, still they can have the imprint of the delusions. In that cases, it gives rise to the appearance of truly existence. Even though there is no delusion, there is no grasping, but there is the appearance of truly existence, and that become obstacle to the enlightenment, fully enlightenment. So sometime, and so here the sign. So that is the meaning of the taking the bad state. What it refer that word, and the signs here refer to the reviving the imprint. So when you meet with the object of the delusions, afflictive emotions, which are the mistaken, wrong minds or consciousness, then that give, revive, or kind of give rise to that delusions. So in a way, the delusion kind of manifesting, when it is revived or when it is, so I think that is what it means, So then, according to the instruction, perfection of wisdom, then it is the formal, the imprint is abandoned through the special insight, and the manifesting later, which is the manifesting, the sign, the manifesting of the delusion, is overcome through the shamatha. So again, I guess when you have a shamatha, because of your totally when your mind is totally observe into the object of your meditations, then all the other thoughts dissolve. And so when all the thought dissolve, the delusion also dissolve. So therefore the delusion will not manifest when you are, as long as you are in that state of mind, that meditative state of shamatha or karma abiding. And so therefore that acts as a kind of way to overcome that, the delusion from manifesting. But the imprint is still there. Imprint is still there. Even the delusion are not manifesting, but the imprint is still there. And when you are out of that meditative state, and when cause and condition come together, the delusion arises. And so in order to overcome that, the imprint, then we need to have the special insight, the penetrating wisdom of special insight. So then the special insight not only can overcome the delusion, manifesting of delusion, but from the very imprint of that. So therefore, even when you have done that, then even when you are in not meditative state, even when you are, and even when the cause and conditions arises, it will not give rise to any delusions, because you have destroyed even the imprint. Okay, so that is. So therefore, the advantage, the advantages thereby pointed out should also be understood as a benefit of other tools. So what is? Yeah. So he is here saying, all the result all the excellent qualities, realization, or result of stabilizing meditations and wisdom, even though all of not them are actual result of actual shamatha karma abiding, but we can be included in that because they are similar, stabilizing meditations and karma abiding or shamatha, and then wisdom, and so therefore we can. So that is where it is saying, and then where it is saying again from that same sutras, there are so many concentrations, but if we kind of summarize it, then it kind of come to those two, shamatha and karma abiding, and therefore, if we kind of train ourselves to cultivate those two, then indirectly we are kind of cultivating all other wisdom, all other concentrations, So I think basically that is mainly that. Once we have cultivated those two, shamatha and karma abiding, then it's easy to cultivate all other concentrations, so many other concentrations. So even though we don't have time to go through each of those concentrations in cultivating, but if we focus on the main, kind of the general main of all the concentrations, the epitome of all of that, then all other will be kind of more or less included that. And then what is the entity or nature of shamatha and karma abiding? And so then again in the same sutra, it is explained, while someone's while dwelling or abiding in alone in a solitude, and then when we kind of focus and direct our mind towards whatever object of our concentrations, and so to focus and pay attention to that object of concentrations, and when you are able to concentrate, continuously and steady, steady, and with clarity, without any kind of distraction, excitement, or without any kind of mental thinking or laxity. And through free from that kind of mind, free from excitement and laxity, and to be able to keep your mind focused attentively, continuously, with clarity, and then slowly that give rise to the plenty, flexibility and plenty of your body and mind. And through that, it gives great bliss on physically and mentally, and that is called shamatha or karma abiding, so that is so that is as it is in that sutra, and also Lama Tsongkhapa kind of explained that, and then that at that time that concentration becomes shamatha. So here it is saying, such Lama Tsongkhapa says such shamatha can be arising or cultivated by keeping your mind focused inwardly towards the object, free from the all the excitement and distractions. So it does not depend on comprehending or understanding the emptiness. Shamatha does not have to have a shamatha does not does not have to depend on realizing or understanding emptiness. It will come later because there are many shamatha which do not realize the emptiness. Such shamatha is can be developed by all the Buddhist schools of thoughts, as well as even the non-Buddhist, schools can develop that. Then the entity of special insight, again in the same sutras, so then here is having achieved physical planes and mental planes. So what it means is, in order to have it will come later, but in order to come abiding, before you can have come abiding, you need to have achieved the shamatha. So therefore, you already need to have achieved the shamatha. And so you have already achieved the shamatha. That means you have already achieved the physical and mental planesy. On the basis of that, then you started investigating, analyzing and analyzing, the object of your investigations, whether it's a conventional phenomena or whether it's the ultimate phenomena, emptiness, that object, then you should investigate, analyze thoroughly, not just a very light way, but very detailed, thoroughly analysis. And through that kind of analysis, normally, when we do analysis, you lose the your mind being steady, unmoving, unmoving and steady. And when your mind is not totally and so when you're analyzing, your mind is being moving, because you are investigating, analyzing. So your mind is moving. So your mind is not, unlike like concentration, your mind was not moving, your mind started moving. But as you started to do that, and eventually, even with that kind of analysis, eventually, the more analysis you do, the more your mind becomes more focused and unmoved. And when your mind becomes, while you are investigating, analyzing, still your mind is unmoved and very focused, attentive, not losing the objects. And when your mind is so unmoved, focused that way, then it gives to another level of, through that analysis, then it leads to another level of physical and mental planesy and flexibility. And when you achieve that, then that is what we call special insight. So that is what it says. And I think in that sutra, it has used quite a few different words in terms of analyzing, where it is saying the object of your analysis, whatever object that it might be. So any discernment, full investigation, full analysis, it is used that so I think that the meaning of that will come later. I think Lama Tsongkhapa will explain tolerance, acceptance, and classification, viewing, and conception of what it means. So So then in terms of trying to explain some of the meaning of that, here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, through differentiations that you find in part of that, these are many different ways of analyzing, investigating. And so through differentiations, it's differentiation varieties, which means the object of your analysis is a conventional phenomena or relative phenomena. Because in conventional phenomena, relative phenomena, there are so many different varieties, whereas in emptiness, all is one. In emptiness, as it is said, in emptiness, all is one. In conventional phenomena, then there are so many differences. And so therefore, differentiating variety means analyzing on conventional phenomena, and discernment. In that sutra, when it said discernment, then that is meaning, analyzing on the modes or the analyzing the ultimate nature or emptiness. And then you find full investigations in that word, or investigations, and that means, is a course of gross investigations, not going as details. And then analysis, when it says analysis, then it is going more subtle analysis, more subtle investigations. And I think tolerance, acceptance, I think it probably means for different persons of, yeah, so I think, anyway, maybe. And then here is saying, how other sutras also similar from other sutra and treatises that is similar to the sutra unraveling the intended meaning, which I explained. So in the Cloud of Jewel of Sutra, again, it's clearly explained what shamatha is. It is single pointed mind. What special insight means is examination or investigating analysis, and also material in his, that it is also again is clearly explained, like when your mind is restrained from, your mind being kind of restrained from being distracted, and to keep single pointed, you're on the object or the path is the shamatha. On the other hand, full analysis on the objects is the special insight, and so again, also it also, so all those sutras, it clear sutras and commentaries, treatises, it explain shamatha is single pointed concentrations, mind, and karma abiding, and is investigating, analyzing, analytical mind, investigating mind. Also in Asanga's Bodhisattva level, again, as well as the stages of meditation by Kamala Shila II, again, it is explained similarly in that way, where it says when your mind is, able to keep to the objects without any distractions toward the external objects, and your mind is totally focused, and to be able to remain that without any excitements or distractions. And through that, when you develop the plances, then that is called shamatha. And through analysis, such as on emptiness and so forth, and then that is called special insight. And also instruction to perfection wisdom also explains similar way. So I guess here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, you know, some of the, he's not making up himself, okay? When he is explaining karma abiding in shamatha, and what shamatha means, what karma abiding means, and those different way of training. Because shamatha, you don't analyze, single pointed. In karma abide, that is karma abiding in shamatha, and in a special insight, then you have to do analyze, investigate. And so therefore, Lama Tsongkhapa, because there were a lot of, you know, maybe it will come later, because in the past, there have been many scholars and practitioners who didn't think, you know, analytical meditation is needed or necessary. You know, if you have that kind of a single-pointed concentration, shamatha, then that will be good enough to achieve enlightenment. And so Lama Tsongkhapa is clearly differentiating those two, and in that, by authentic sources from so many sources of Buddha's own sutras and so many great Indian masters that came later. So he's giving all those different authentic sources where his explanations come from, you know. So again, Lama Tsongkhapa was saying, you know, according to the Asanga's Bodhisattva level, and also in the instruction on the perfection of wisdom, it is clearly explained here. It says, you know, both shamatha and karma abiding, the object of both shamatha and karma abiding can be conventional phenomena, as well as it can be a ultimate phenomena, emptiness. So, you know, it can be, both of them can have objects of meditations, both either conventional phenomena or ultimate phenomena. And therefore, you cannot differentiate the karma abiding or shamatha and special insight on the basis whether their object is conventional phenomena or whether their object is ultimate phenomena. So it is not like all the object of shamatha doesn't have to be conventional phenomena. It can be also emptiness. Also, the object of special insight doesn't have to be emptiness. It can be conventional phenomena as well. And so therefore, both shamatha and karma abiding, some of karma abiding, some of shamatha has object as a conventional phenomena, and some of them have object of their as an ultimate phenomena. And so therefore, you cannot differentiate one being, let's say, a special insight because its object of meditation is emptiness. Because there are also shamatha, which object of meditation is also emptiness. Also, you cannot say something is a concentration is not a karma abiding shamatha because the object of them is conventional phenomena, because also special insight has also object of conventional phenomena as well. And so therefore the distinguishing between the distinguish between shamatha and karma abiding is not based on the object, but is based on how they engage into the objects. How they engage when we train, how we engage or train towards the objects. In special insight, the way it engages the object is through analyzing, investigating. In terms of shamatha, the way it engages the object of meditations is through single pointly observing the objects, engaging an object with single pointly without any kind of investigation. And so that is where and then, here it is saying, there are again some misunderstandings that has been in the past, where they think, if someone is able to develop, your state of mind or concentrations without any non-conceptually, without any thoughts and concept, and but without having any intense clarity in relation to the objects, then such concentrations regarded as shamatha. And on the other hand, that kind of concentrations, when it has that kind of intensity and clarity in relation to the object of meditation, then that concentration is known as special insight. That is, there are some make that kind of differentiation. So here again, Lama Tsongkhapa is saying again, it is absolutely it is incorrect, because it contradicts to all the quotations that Lama Tsongkhapa has made, all different sutras and Indian masters. They all clearly explain. It all become contradictions to that, all of that, as explained earlier. And because in these cases, the differentiation between the shamatha and special insights, differences made between whether it has laxity or not laxity. Because if you have laxity, then you don't have the intense clarity. If you don't, if you are free from the laxity, the subtle laxity, then you have any kind of concentrations, then you have clear intensity. And so therefore, the differentiations between the shamatha and special insight cannot be made on the basis of whether there is a laxity or not laxity, because any kind of concentrations, of any kind of shamatha, and karma abiding, they all need to be free from the laxity. And that means when you are free from laxity, then you will have the intense clarity. And so therefore, all kind of shamatha, different shamatha, all kind of special insight, all different special insight, all different shamatha, they all has to be free from, they all has to have these qualities of being free from the laxity. And therefore, they all need to have these qualities of, intense clarity. And so therefore, since both or all of them have that quality, so you cannot differentiate the karma abiding shamatha on the basis whether one having an intense clarity and one not having an intense clarity. That doesn't. So it is against all the scriptures as well as it doesn't make, yeah, from that reason, it's true. So, I think there seems to be one question before I. Yeah, there is a question. Isn't the karma abiding shamatha same? Yes, it is same. I think sometimes I get mixed with karma abiding and special insight. I think a couple of times I think I slip something wrong. Okay, shamatha and karma abiding here. Yeah, we're referring to the same thing. Yeah. Mm. So special insight. So here the difference trying to make is between the shamatha and special insight. Okay, so that is special insight. Mm. So again, also there has been a lot of misunderstanding in the past, you know, based on certain like in some of the you know, tantric teachings, and as well in some sutra teachings as well. Sometimes it is explained as you know, there is an explanation of blissful, clear, non-conceptual consciousness that realizes the emptiness, you know. And so there is that. And so due to that, sometimes there is a lot of time people misunderstood any clear, you know, non-conceptual, blissful, clear, non-conceptual consciousness, all of them being as a special insight, you know, as being a special insight. The conscious, all the consciousness that is blissful, clear, and non-conceptual, those consciousness being a karma abiding. And so Lama Tsongkhapa is again clarifying that, you know, not all of those, not all the mind that is blissful, clear, and non-conceptual has to become abiding. And not all of them need to have all those, not all of them realize the emptiness, you know. So therefore there is yeah. Even without someone is not analyzing, you know, on emptiness, you know, when someone is focusing on whatever object of your meditations, you know, let's say your object of meditations can be, you know, Buddha's image, it can be your breath, it can be your mind, you know, any of those conventional phenomena, you know. And through training your mind in meditation, in your concentration, you know, as you meditate and as your practice get better, your meditation and your attentions, your focus get better and better, you know, as you are able to overcome the gross, subtle, and more subtle level of excitement and distractions. As you are able to overcome most gross, subtle, and more subtle level of mental thinking or laxity, you begin to find more and more clarity in your objects, and there will be more and more clarity in your object, and slowly all the conceptual thoughts will kind of dissolve. All other conceptual thought will dissolve, and then you can have a without any concept. You can totally be with that, and when you are totally in that, without any kind of concept, then it will, because all the thoughts dissolve, all the concept dissolve, and thoughts dissolve, and you are totally focused in that object, and that will give rise to cleansing, and that will give rise to the blissfulness. And so therefore, in that state of mind, someone can have, all the in that mind there is. So when you have that kind of shamatha, then there is clarity, there is blissfulness, there can be a non-conceptual, but that doesn't mean that, but that mind does not realize emptiness, And on the other hand, if someone is, having achieved the shamatha, and then when they engage in analysis, investigation, and through that kind of more analysis, investigation, then they can again come to a point, because of that analysis and investigation, then again there's more clarity in terms of the reality of that object, the emptiness of that object. There's a towards that object, there's a clarity, there is a non-conceptual, all the concept dissolve, non-conceptual, and there's a bliss. And in that cases, then that mind realizes the emptiness. And so there are, within the blissful, clear, non-conceptual consciousness, there is some which have realization of emptiness, there are some which does not have realization of emptiness. And so therefore we have to differentiate those two. So Lama Tsongkhapa is saying you have to differentiate. You can't say all blissful, clear, non-conceptual are that realize emptiness, because a lot of some practitioners, thought that is all you need. That is all you need to become enlightenment. That blissful, clear, non-conceptual, by basing on some statement from here and there. And if that is the case, then Lama Tsongkhapa, you don't not necessarily need that come abiding, and a special insight. And if you don't have the special insight, then that doesn't mean that you couldn't have the realization of emptiness. And so therefore, then it becomes possible, even without realizing emptiness, one can achieve enlightenment. And so therefore, Lama Tsongkhapa was making clear that that is incorrect. In order to achieve enlightenment, you need to have realization of emptiness, absolutely necessary. So I think that is the way of distinguishing that Lama Tsongkhapa was making here. And then the fourth, why we need to cultivate both shamatha and karma. Again, karma abiding always come in shamatha and special insight. Why we need both of them. Isn't one enough? And so they're here. And so there is examples. So through example, it can be good. So for example, when you are trying to read in the night, when it's dark, whether we are trying to read any books, scriptures, or whether we are trying to see any kind of image in the wall. If you have some painting, image on the wall, if you are trying to look that image, or if you are trying to read some scripture books, anything, what we need is one, in order to see it very clearly, the image, the object, you need a very, very powerful and light, powerful light. Of course, now here we are using old examples, so it will be more like candle, okay? So that is where the wind comes. With our present light, modern light, the wind doesn't affect, But here the example giving is like a, very, if the candle light is very small, then again, it's not so clear, but it's a big light, something like candle light, big and very powerful. And even the light is very powerful and very big, but if there is too much wind blowing it, so it is unstable. And if it's unstable, again, you cannot see the image clearly. So in order to see the image clearly, you need, the strong candle light, which is free from being moved by the wind. It has to be stable, unmoved by the wind, undisturbed by the wind. It has to be stable. And so that is the example, So in the same way, when we look for, when we look for the ultimate reality of phenomena, when we look for the ultimate reality of phenomena, you need the light, strong light of special insight to be able to see the emptiness or ultimate reality clearly. But not only you need that strong light of special insight, in order for that special insight, then you need the shamatha that help that special insight to be unmoved by distractions and laxity and so forth. Unmoved by that, where your analyze become very focused, very stable. Therefore, then we need the shamatha in order to, and so therefore that is why it need, in order to have a clear understanding of the ultimate truth or emptiness, we need both the light of the special insight, as well as the shamatha that is unmoved by the wind of distractions. So here, where Lama Tsongkhapa says, if we do not have wisdom, which is the karma abiding, realizing the emptiness, even though we might have, shamatha such as non-conceptual concentrations, where your mind is unscattered, very focused, you will not be able to understand and realize the ultimate reality, no matter how much familiarity and with your concentration, no matter how much you practice the concentrations for life years after year, life after life, many life, still you will not be able to realize the emptiness, unless you started it. On the other hand, even though we might have the view of wisdom realizing emptiness, or selflessness, but if we don't have a strong focused mind or concentrations, single pointly, then we will not be able to see the ultimate reality or emptiness clearly, because our analyze will be not so focused, because our analyze will be kind of distracted. And so therefore, why it is needed, both necessary. Of course, if we are trying to cultivate just temporary peace, temporary peace, then of course, maybe even without wisdom realizing emptiness, without a special insight, just by having a certain level of concentration, shamatha, you can find a peace, certain level of peace. But if you want to get rid of all the delusions for forever, if you want to free from the samsara forever, if you want to achieve liberation, then it is absolutely necessary to have both. Without both of them, it's not possible to achieve freedom from samsara and to achieve liberations. So I think there is Kamala Shila's stages of meditation too. It says that it gives that example and the meaning there. So I don't have to read it. I think Lama Tsongkhapa kind of more already explained meaning of that quotations. And then there the meaning of that, I think Lama Tsongkhapa already explained. Is not so difficult. And then in the next page, where it is like in the next page 186, the first of that, it is like that. It has been set forth in the Moon Lamp Sutra. Through shamatha's power, you will be immovable. Through the special insight, you will be like a mountains. So through the shamatha, when you develop shamatha, because you have such a powerful single-pointed concentrations, that your mind cannot be moved by any of the wind of distractions, excitement, laxity, mental sinking, So your mind will be so stable, so focused, so firm, and cannot be moved by any of those. And when you have special insight, because you have the realizations of the nature of the phenomena, with so much deep and profound investigation and analysis, because you have understood, not because someone out of belief or just someone said, but because of your own personal examinations, investigation, analysis. That is what special insights does. And then through that kind of profound and deep and truly investigating, analyzing, when you come to a certain realization of that, then it becomes like a mountain where it cannot be moved. And so therefore your understanding and your convictions in that understanding cannot be kind of changed by other person's views, So it's like mountain that cannot be moved by whatever external conditions. So that is what it is. We need to have that kind of certainty, that kind of convictions that come through that kind of investigation, analyzing. Otherwise, we have some belief, then someone explain with a reason, some kind of eloquent way, something else, then we think, oh, we follow that. And someone explain something else and we follow. So we always kind of keep on changing our view all the time. Changing our view, changing our convictions all the time, depending on whoever is explaining us and how eloquent they are. But once we have come to certain convictions and certainty and understanding based on that, then that is the most, and that is one of the beauty of the Dharma, is that it has to come to that even the faith has to come through that kind of analyzed reasonings, not just a blind faith, not a blind convictions, not a blind feeling certainty of that. And so that is important. So, so if we analyze, with the wisdom, investigate and analyze, together with the meditative state of shamatha, which is unmovable or unevenness due to lacking excitement, then we'll know the deeper meanings of the reality more. We'll understand clearly and unreversible. Once we have that understanding, based on that, then that understanding will not be reversed or changed, then it becomes very stable. And so then that is where the continuum Dharma as well as stage of meditation 1, it says, here it gives the unsteady, the mind, like if we don't have karma abiding or shamatha, then our mind is unsteady, like water. So I guess maybe when you say water, probably it might be saying like running water, like a steam. Like is a running water steam, then it is unstable, it's always moving. So maybe that might be the example, even though I'm not 100% sure when the mind is unsteady like water, It's like because the running water, like steam, is constantly, rivers are constantly moving, so it is not steady, So unless we achieve karma abiding, certain level of karma abiding or shamatha, then our mind is also like that, always running, not staying stable to the objects, kind of running all the time. And so here again, in that, when it says without the meditative equipoise cannot know reality as it is, it's not saying again, even you don't have shamatha, you can still have realization of emptiness. But when here, like such here, it says, what it means, you cannot have the karma abiding that relies the emptiness. The wisdom realizing emptiness and karma abiding, again, I get karma abiding, special insight. Okay, wisdom realizing emptiness and special insight are not same. Okay, if it is special insight, then it has to, it doesn't have to be wisdom realizing emptiness. Also, wisdom realizing emptiness doesn't have to be special insight realizing emptiness. Someone can have a realization emptiness before they have shamatha. Whereas special insight has to come after one has developed shamatha. And so again, here, when you see similar statement like here, reality is fully known as it is by mind in meditative equipoise. So when again it is saying, you know, the special here fully known referring to the wisdom relies, not the special insight relies on the emptiness can be developed only on the basis of meditative equipoise of shamatha. Okay. Now, and then when we have accomplished shamatha, how powerful it becomes. So then it is explaining a little bit that it says, you know, once we have cultivated the shamatha, not only it can give realization that can lead us to have realization of special insight that realize the emptiness of selflessness. But once we have that shamatha, then you know, that can be, because once we have shamatha, then there is no, our mind does not have distractions and laxity. And so therefore, with that kind of so focused and concentrated mind, then whatever analytical meditation that you do, it becomes very strong analytical meditation or practice, you know. So then with that kind of shamatha, if we meditate on impermanence with that kind of shamatha, or law of cause and effect, the karma, or you know, disadvantage of cyclic existence, samsara, and if we meditate on loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta and so forth, all of them become very powerful. All of them become very powerful. Because when we engage in such meditations, you know, then you do not have distractions. At the moment, even when we try to meditate, a lot of time we are very much distracted. So our meditation is not so powerful. And so therefore, that is why we struggle to have a effect in our practice and realizations. Because even when we try to do some Dharma practice, still our mind is very much kind of distracted. And so our mind is not totally into that practice, fully into that practice. But once we have shamatha, then whatever practice we do, our mind will be totally into that, totally focused. Therefore, you know, realizations can come much more easily, you know. And therefore, in that way, whatever virtues we do, all the practice become, virtuous practice become very powerful. And of course, wherever our minds direct, you know, whatever thing we do, everything become powerful. Even our worldly things, you know, whatever job we are doing, whatever things we are trying to, it will be more powerful because we will be able to do with less distractions. And if we do not have the shamatha, then of course, we know with our experience, at least I know with my experience, you know, your mind is kind of predominated by distractions. Your mind is wandering all the time, running here and there, you know. And so therefore our practice is not so strong, it becomes weak, you know. And so then that is where Shandeva said, you know, when person's mind is distracted, you know, then it's easy for our mind to be attacked by the delusions, afflictive emotions, you know. Even when we are doing practice in Dharma or meditations, you know, while we are meditating, because our mind gets distracted, and then one of those delusion arises, then it kind of attacks our mind, and then our mind is totally overtaken by that enemy of the afflictive emotions, you know. And so therefore, you know, as Buddha, as Shantideva said, whatever practice we are trying to do, it becomes very weak and powerless, and therefore it becomes less effective, and weak result instead of more powerful result from our practice. And how to order is definite. I think maybe we have to leave here today. I thought I might be able to finish that, but okay. So, I guess there is no more questions. So again, I think one of the things is you have to read yourself, and I think that is the homework. In that way, we can go a little bit faster without having to read each of them and again trying to explain of them. But because I'm not going by word, so then it will help. It means you have to read yourself, and if you read it, and then when you come it, then you can have, you can get more. And also, when you read it, you cannot understand it, you can kind of write it down, you have questions, and then even after our class clarification, still it is not being clear enough, you have some questions, then you can ask questions, so that will be a way to do. So in that way, then you can, and it is not much, we only go like 2-3 pages in a week. It's not much to read. So I think it will be really good to read yourself. Yeah. There might be one question or something. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Good idea. So someone says good idea. So I think, yeah, that is one thing. You try to read it before we come, 2-3 pages. Or of course, that is kind of the minimum, but you can read much more in a week, and where they are not clear, you can kind of mark, or you can write questions, and then when we come to class, then sometime with the class, thing can be a little bit clarified, and you don't have to ask. And sometime even after that I finish explaining and still some of things are not clear, then you can always kind of ask directly, or you can kind of write it. Okay, so we can do the dedications. And then, as I mentioned before, meditations. Also, you can try to do meditations, whatever subject we are going through, a little bit. Okay, then we can do the prayers. So again, while first two, I will chant in Tibetan. You can chant with me, or if you would like to do in English quietly, you can do English, whatever you feel more comfortable. Gyawadi nyodo da lama sangye dogyo ne do chi kyama lupa e sala kweba sho chanjo sencho rinpoche ma ke pa na ke kyo che ke wa nyamba me ba ya kong le kong do pe wa sho. Then the others, yeah, the wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Tu zu chang xin chang ben jia wei, en zin zhong bei wei kun su do bo zi, chou sun gu wei le mo tu ju, pa da so du je gun du xia ten xiu. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening. Good night.
Thank you, Geshe